Hello and welcome to the Guardian Football Weekly. We obviously shouldn't read too much into the Community Shield, but let's just give Arsenal the title now, shall we? A 3-0 win over Enzo Maresca's Manchester City in the Community Shield. Martin Odegaard was great. Nothing like sitting down a keeper. There's some transfer stuff. Cristian Romero to Atleti was meant to be. Hopefully someone on the pod can tell me if he's brilliant or not that good, because I've never been able to work it out. Then to the EFL, Zian Fleming hits two late ones as Burnley hold West Ham. Wolves also draw. Middlesbrough leave it late against Lincoln, while fancied Norwich and Southampton both lose. And one Portsmouth fan has already ripped up his season ticket. In League One, Cambridge are fifth, and in League Two, widely fancied Salford get battered. Elsewhere, there's the Brobbeyest Brobbey goal to discuss. Your questions, and that's today's Guardian Football Weekly. On the panel today, Will Unwin, welcome.
Hello, Max.
Happy new season. Meadow Lane and then Turf Moor. The season has really begun for you. Sanny Rudravajhala, hello.
Hello. Yes, I'm back. Good to see you.
And welcome, Ben Fisher.
Hi, Max.
Right, let's start the Community Shield. Arsenal 3, Man City 0. Ben, you were there. Talk us through it.
Yeah, it was quite the convincing performance from Arsenal, wasn't it? Felt like they were kind of, as you alluded to, Max, with the third goal, the Odegaard goal, felt like they were toying with Manchester City, which is something we don't see very often. Obviously, Enzo Maresca's first kind of meaningful game in charge, and it couldn't really have gone probably too much worse. And for Arsenal, it was just really quite perfect, probably until Declan Rice hit himself with the kind of floppy part of the stand of the actual shield itself while he was sort of tossing it to and
he styled it out well, didn't he? Like he did.
He just owned it.
Okay, yeah, you got to own that.
Yeah, he owned it. But yeah, it felt like one of those games where everything kind of just came off for Arsenal and Mikel Arteta. Like Miles Lewis-Skelly, there's been a lot of noise around him. The suggestion he's been sort of offered to clubs. And yet he was brilliant for Arsenal. Set up the first goal inside 24 seconds. A real superb sort of reverse ball, rolled Phil Foden, great finish from Calafiori. And from there it was one-way traffic really. City had a couple of chances, but they were tame really at best. It was a good sort of encouraging 45-minute debut for Bruno. Obviously another new signing, and Christos Zolis. Was probably the pick of the players, really. Played the full game, set up two, was actually involved in all three goals. Thought Ben White was good. There was just so many positives for Arsenal, but not too many for Manchester City and Maresca.
Just on Solis, Ben, because a lot of people listening probably won't have seen much of him, if any of him. Give us an idea of what kind of player he is, because you're right. I think I was slightly surprised when Trossard left, and you would think, okay, who have they got down that side, because Martinelli's not necessarily going to stay. We don't know. And I thought he was just excellent.
Yeah, and maybe some of us maybe forget he was in England before at Norwich. It didn't really work out at that point. He's obviously come back now for decent money, I think 34 million. But Arteta said afterwards that the sort of beauty of Zolis is in that sort of final 20 to 30 metres of the pitch. That's where he comes alive. His final sort of ball, his execution of the pass is really good. But actually, for the second goal for Havertz, the way he kind of craned his neck and it sort of extended himself to head across goal was maybe something we weren't expecting to see from this kind of perceived sort of jinky winger. But he kind of showed that he's got the lot really. It was a really, really impressive debut from him. And obviously his pass for the third as well, which Odegaard took really well.
Yeah, and that goal, Sanny, Odegaard even smiles, doesn't he? Like when Donnarumma's sat down. I put in the group, I think the greatest sitting down of a keeper, which is Glenn Hoddle for Tottenham v Oxford. I think in his last game for Tottenham, or his last game at White Hart Lane before into Monaco, where he drops the shoulder and the whole defence disappear, and then he just feigns to shoot and the keeper sits down. But there's just something so... It's just watching a footballer in total control of what is happening. And that was Odegaard for pretty much all this game.
Yes, it was. And it was a lovely sitting down. However, I put it to you, Max, that Donnarumma spent quite a lot of time sitting down.
Okay. So it's not sitting down a keeper if he's already sitting down.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, the first goal as well, he did the same thing. In fact, he did... genuinely what I do at five-a-side in goalkeeping, because I can only really dive left, and so and I'm not very good, but I dive early. So every now and then I pull off like a mad save, only because I've dived before they've shot, and I've just gone all the way to the left. And I'm like, oh, great! So, and there was quite a bit of that, certainly for those two goals. And I wonder, because he's still only young, isn't he? But he's been playing since he was a child. Has he aged early? Trafford's gone. And
but you can't. He's 27. You can't not be able to dive right. Like that is not like when you get to 27. That is real. I mean, to be fair, once I've played 11-a-side, the next day I can only get on the bike from one side. I'm like a horse refusing a fence on the other one. But the idea that Donnarumma can now only dive one way is spectacular.
That would be the most spectacular fall off ever. I'm sure he still can dive right, but there was just something in there. I think because he's, I'm one to speak, losing your hair at a younger age, and he just seems a little bit slow, maybe because he's so lumbering and so big. It just very easily kind of plays into this image of him kind of aging rapidly, and then you goalkeep like a 40-year-old man at Stockport Power League. That'll make it look even more clear.
Yeah, he could. Producer Joel saying he could quickly turn around and dive left facing the wrong way. It's tricky to pull off the save.
The no-look save.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just on the Ødegaard performance, Will, because I thought it was really good. And he wasn't amazing last year. I mean, he was injured a lot, right? But like, if suddenly Ødegaard, because we spent so much time thinking about new signings, but if suddenly Ødegaard starts playing as well as he can, that's absolutely enormous for Arsenal.
Firstly, I hope none of Sanny's five-a-side opponents are listening because they're just going to shoot right from now on. Oh, there he is, yeah.
Trust me, there's no need for tactics on the Monday night Division 2.
But, yeah, I mean, Ødegaard's always been that sort of classy player, the lovely touch, the lovely pass, the lovely dribble. And I think a lot of time with that, it takes rhythm, maybe a bit of confidence from the World Cup and things after a difficult season may have helped. Possibly the fact that Manchester City's midfield didn't really exist may have been beneficial for him at times on Sunday. But as you say, with the finish, it is that of a confident man. And those things where you're just working on instincts is really, helped by being confident. And when you have that, when all those things are clicking, then you are at your best. And you had a bit of motivation from Arteta and whatnot, and you probably know you have to up your game. It's make or break, and if you want to be a Premier League winner in a Champions League club, and you want to be an integral part, you've got to up it. And he just gave those indications that it was all connecting for him, and so hopefully for him and for Arsenal, you'll see the best of him in those roles, and that he can have that influence that maybe was lacking, and maybe more starts that he needs to build that momentum. So especially with a big season with lots of games, it'll be good to see. The sort of player everyone really likes, isn't he?
And actually, if we want Arsenal to play more entertaining football, like him being fit and in there that is naturally going to happen. And you talked about Lewis Skelly, Ben. It's so interesting, this idea, and it's sort of widely thought that they are trying to offer him to other Premier League clubs. You sort of think after that pass, which you described perfectly, it's such a brilliant pass. You obviously can still sell a player after they've just set up the only goal in the Community Shield, but it almost feels mad now to go, we'll let this guy with this talent go and make another Premier League side better.
Yeah, it should definitely be that little bit harder, you'd imagine, to get rid after that. And I also think a big thing with somebody like Lewis Skelly is that relationship with him in the fans, which again, you can still sell a player because they have a strong relationship with the fans. But yesterday, like the positivity, the sort of willingness for him to do well sort of throughout the game, the joy they have from seeing somebody like that who's come through the system perform. I think those players are really important in the same way that we sort of want Ødegaard to thrive because he's the captain, the way he plays. I think there's a beauty of having a player like that in the team, and not just in the team for the wrong reasons. But I think yesterday there's no reason. He was one of the best players on the pitch. So yeah, I think he should stay. But Arsenal obviously do have to offload some players. Gabriel Martinelli, Nwaneri weren't in the squad yesterday. I think they could maybe both leave. But all the while, people like Lewis Skelly probably feel like they've seized their chance.
And actually, Sanny, their title last year was built on an amazing defence, and they've got no Saliba, but they still defended, and City weren't brilliant in this game, but City created a bit, and Arsenal defended brilliantly. And, those last-ditch blocks that they're kind of known for, and Gabriel did one, Ben White did a brilliant one at some point in the game. Like the strength they have at the back, which you might start to ignore if they start playing really free-flowing football, is still there.
Yes, it is. And Ben White, who's had so many injuries and issues, his in particular was a really great block, wasn't it? And yet, just when you think that maybe that's the one issue when Saliba went holding his various parts of himself during the World Cup when he went down. You think, oh well, are they going to go in the transfer market? And for that reason, although Lewis Skelly isn't a centre half, is he? But breaking up those players who know what it's like to defend in that side is maybe not a wise move. Add to that Calafiori as well. He's been on the fringes, hasn't he? Somehow you're coming into the fore here, and it's an opportunity for all those fringe defenders to get their opportunity and show what they can do. And Ben White kind of epitomised that. But to have taken apart City in the way they did, and be so clear at the back, so resolute at the back, and of course you've got David Raya behind that as well. I think you could actually take more than that than I kind of was expecting we could this season.
Well, Man City then, obviously there are, it was Maresca's first competitive game, if it's a competitive game. It didn't go brilliantly. What are your takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's two sides to it. There's a bit of context of City had 3 pre-season friendlies where half the squad wasn't there, and people like Anderson, Haaland only turned up this week for their first interactions in person with Maresca. Obviously, no Rodri, who's on his way, so there's creation of a new midfield. I think Kusanov at right back's a bit of a disaster. I don't think he's got the sort of technical ability or the positioning to do it. And clearly there are problems, but again, it was the first competitive game for Maresca. But equally, City have known what they're like without Rodri for a very, very long time, because they've missed him when he's been absent for injury. And so having a solution to that beforehand may have been advisable. I know Anderson struggled, but he obviously is a really good player and he could do it, but I think they'd need a different dynamic in there, and this is why they want Buwardi, who's expensive for an 18-year-old from Lille, because that midfield clearly just needs a rebuild. Silva's gone, that experience is gone, Rodri's going, Kovacic doesn't really look up to it. You got people like Nico Gonzalez who have never particularly looked up to it. So you've got to hope that Anderson and Buwardi, and then potentially someone like Enzo Fernandez, can create a midfield.
Yeah, and it's so hard. You take 3
pressure.
players that have never played together, one of whom is 18. Enzo is, hit and miss is perhaps too strong.
Yeah.
And Anderson is not Rodri, right? We know that he's such a brilliant player, Anderson, but he's just not that. He's not like Rodri is Tony Kroos, right? That is what he is.
Yeah,
is that fair?
Buwardi is sort of seen as the most natural fit as that defensive midfielder in front of a back 4. Again, none of them really covered themselves in glory yesterday. Gvardiol looked a bit shaky, and Diaz as well, which is not. And again, Donnarumma was poor. So when you are trying to rebuild a side, having those experienced players performing well is advisable to at least give some hope.
Why is Tijani Reinders, by the way? Why is he going to Saudi? Isn't he only like 24?
He's too slow. He doesn't move the ball.
Really?
He's not fast though, is he?
No, but I mean, obviously different roles, I'd say, for starters. But I think you'll find this season Maresca will play at a higher tempo than Guardiola has in recent years. And Reinders just doesn't fit into any of that. I mean, never really found a position that he looks suitable with at City. And a sort of wider point, I think Hugo Viana's transfer dealings are going to be heavily scrutinised this window because people like Reinders hasn't worked. And so he's got to get it right, which is a lot of pressure there as well. And so Maresca's not now got time to, signing probably going to have to be 2 players. It'll be Buwardi, whether it's Enzo Fernandez or not. It'll be interesting to see 120 million quid. And obviously he's a bit more of an attacking player, and trying to work out how you fit 2 of those 3 together each game will be interesting. But he hasn't got much time to do it. He's not had the Anderson since he's arrived. His first time's like, there's a couple of training sessions. You have a crack at Arsenal, then or see how you get on. And he didn't look great.
And he'll probably miss. Like that injury didn't look great. Don't know what it is quite yet.
And Kovacic again is he struggled with fitness for a while. It is.
What do you think?
It's complicated.
What do you think the expectations are? Obviously, City don't tend to be a panicking club.
No.
And obviously we understand that Pep leaves. That is quite a big deal. And it is only the Community Shield, right? They might win their first 5 games.
Well, that's
what are the expectations? Because by all accounts, the players at Chelsea loved Maresca. The players here, the ones that have known him, I don't know how many are still there from his time at City, but he's popular with players, but that is key, but it's not everything.
I mean, we say that City don't panic, but they did sign 5 players in the January transfer window. a couple of seasons back to sort of try and completely change the face of the squad mid-season. I think when you've spent that amount of money, when you've got, you know, players that have won the league and European Cups and whatnot, the expectation will always be that they have to challenge and effectively bounce back from, you know, some what's seen as a subpar season, and especially in Europe. So the plan is to challenge. It has to be. You can't look at that setup, what's been invested, and go, we can give it another season, see how it works out. They've got to push on. They've got to progress, and whether they can, it'll be interesting. As I say, I'm not putting too much weight on Sunday's performance because there's barely been a pre-season. I think the Arsenal have 6 pre-season games before that, and I appreciate they've had similar issues with players not being there. And their players that came into a functioning team with the head coach that was there last season, and they're just tweaking things, whereas Maresca's trying to change the nature of the team with the style being a bit more, as I say, accelerated in possession and things like that, and, you know, different setup within the defensive midfield. But obviously, alongside that, it's pretty chastening to get absolutely thumped and concede a goal after 25 seconds. And all those goals yesterday were so easy. Like, Calafiori through ball, no one near him really. One to the back post where Kusanov completely misses it, and no one there to even get close to stopping the header going in, and, you know, Odegaard just sort of walking for everyone. So those things
actually, Donnarumma did dive left for that one, and he still didn't stop the Havertz header thinking about it, did he? Ben, what did you make of City?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, as Will alluded to, I think City had 3 games. That was Arsenal's 6th game sort of before the season. And I do wonder, you know, do we have to kind of use that caveat of sort of match sharpness, for want of a better phrase? Because all of the goals, you know, City were kind of just nowhere to be seen. It was a bit slow, particularly the third. Odegaard sort of snapped in, nicked the ball, obviously great finish. But you just wonder, will that come with City? I don't know. I think Anderson was particularly sort of unusually overwhelmed. We've not really seen that. I've not seen that really at Nottingham Forest. He was just so consistent. And for England, we have to say, he kind of just slotted in. So I probably expected him just to slot in and kind of carry on where he left off with Man City. But yeah, I don't know. I thought they were poor. I mean, Donnarumma was alarming really in goal. Defensively, it was very open. But I do wonder whether that kind of sharpness and that crispness will come. I think the squad's still just, there's too many good players there, surely. You know, will that be, maybe in a few weeks' time, we'll sort of look at that, or a few months, and think that was kind of the worst performance that they've put in under Maresca, perhaps.
Possible. Yeah, I guess when they've got Doku and Semenyo and Haaland, if they all play well,
I mean,
they should create quite a lot, right?
Semenyo, I thought yesterday was extremely quiet for a player of his kind of quality in the way we've seen him attack the league. So that's a case in point, really. I don't think I've seen him that quiet, that muted. Obviously, Cherky off the bench. Again, we saw what he can do last season. So, I mean, Jack Grealish was interesting yesterday, coming on for his first appearance, I think, since May 25 for City. I kind of half forgot he was a Man City player. And certainly afterwards, Maresca didn't seem too enthused about the idea of him sticking around. So it'd be interesting where he does go.
I had to write the team news up for City on Friday at the press conference, and to be honest, I forgot that Jack Grealish was a City player. So.
I hope he goes somewhere fun, Jack Grealish. Speaking of transfer, so Rodri is off to Barca for 65 million. Japan's Zion Suzuki looks like he said he's a Villa. He was due to go to PSG, that fell through, so could mean Emi Martinez is going somewhere. Coventry have signed Taiwo Awoniyi. São Paolo, yes, Ben. Yeah.
And I was just going to say, I mean, Martinez thing at Villa is interesting, I think. Obviously, he's been there, I think, 6 years, 6 seasons. Has been such an influential player for them. But the timing of this is far from ideal. I mean, last season, there was the sense that Martinez made it quite clear that he'd quite like to move on. I think he wanted to go to Manchester United.
He was crying and saying goodbye, and then
he said his goodbyes, and then obviously had to stick around. And this time, I think he's sort of done similar, maybe minus the crying. And Villa have moved for Suzuki, who I can't claim to have seen loads of, but lots of people tell me he's very good. Lots of Premier League clubs have watched him, and it does feel that there's a a good sort of a high chance that we could see Suzuki coming quite soon. I think that deal's quite advanced, and Martinez will still be a Villa player, which is quite awkward. And now it's on Villa to try and shift him, because if Suzuki comes in, he'll come in to be number one. I think that's fair. And
Martinez doesn't give you happy second keeper vibes, does he?
And then we'd be forgetting Marco Bizzot. So I think, I don't know. I think that's kind of a problem Unai Emery could do without, to be honest. And it's been already obviously a summer of quite a lot of turbulence.
Yeah, Jamie Vardy has been approached by São Paolo. That would be fun. He's assessing several options. Sheffield Wednesday want to bring him in. It's where he started his career. Interestingly, in São Paulo, no advertising in the street. No advertising hoardings until someone tells you. You think you don't notice, and then you're like, "This is weird." Just having no billboards, unless it's changed in the last decade. But there's my São Paulo fact. And Cristian Romero has gone to Atleti. And Sanny, I wrote a column about this because I just can't work out if he was good or not, if he was brilliant or hopeless, and because he was always about to get sent off, even though he only got sent off 4 times for Tottenham. It felt like some more. I was almost permanently annoyed with him, or like pre-annoyed with him, that it rendered any objective judgment sort of impotent. I couldn't do it. I couldn't view him as a player because I was just ready to get annoyed with what he was just about to do or not do. So can you give me an objective, like 1 minute appraisal of Cristian Romero at Tottenham?
I don't know. I don't know if anyone can. Can they? Can they? A man who he's just turned up to 100 all the time. But yeah, I mean, I've got the stats in front of me. 2 red cards, 9 yellows last season, and he only played 22 games, 22 starts in the Premier League last season. So he wasn't like and then add all the Instagram stuff and all the comments. Yeah. So I don't know if anyone can objectively say Cristian Romero was good or not at Spurs.
Fine. Oh, I'm happy. Yeah. I'm happy if I can't. If no one can.
That's the modern player.
He did play brilliantly in the Europa League final. Although I guess the bar was low for anyone playing well in that game. But still, him at Atleti should be what we want to see.
Do you think he was a good captain, Max? I think that was my kind of problem, I suppose, with him. I just feel like he just let the team down, let his teammates down on too many occasions, and even stuff like sort of behind the scenes, for want of a better phrase. I was aware that there was things where often if Spurs get thumped, the captain comes out to talk, and he's basically point blank refusing to do it. I just think if you're the captain, you've got to own that. You've got to go full Declan Rice and to take it on the chin, as it were.
Carry on.
I think to avoid that, he did keep coming up with quite a few late goals, just maybe to avoid having to go out to face the press. I think I saw him score at Burnley.
I don't know.
He was everywhere. That's the thing. He's all action, and those players are rare. But then they're also more rare if you keep getting suspended and you can't actually play.
You're right.
And then you also say you want to leave on Instagram every now and then.
We are going to do our Premier League previews this week. They're going to be out on Wednesday and Thursday. Me, Barry, Jonathan Wilson, Philippe Auclair, Jordan Jarrett Bryan, Nicky Bandini. We'll go through all 20 teams alphabetically as we do every year. But the EFL started the weekend, and we'll get onto that. Welcome to part 2 of the Guardian Football Weekly. We have live shows. Dublin on the 1st of September. The Soho Theatre, Walthamstow on the 9th of September. Go to guardian.co.uk/Football Weekly Live and come. They will both be brilliant. Right, to the Championship then. Will and Sanny, both at Turf Moor for Burnley 2, West Ham 2. And Sanny, 2 late goals from Zian Fleming, but he could have had about 8. It felt to me that was the least Burnley deserved out of this one.
Yeah, from the off, Burnley were really at it. Aaron Ramsey in the middle with a load of chances, dragging them wide. Having been to Burnley, me and Will seem to always end up at Burnley. I don't know why it is. We're always there. Sometimes I've gone and not even messaged him checking he's there, and I thought I'd roll the dice and see if he's there. He's the first face I saw when I entered the stadium yesterday. And often those appearances and those games have been quite dull and not really, turgid, especially the Scott Parker team that won promotion. Remember what was it, 9 goals or something mad like that? This was totally different under Nicky Hayen. Yes, the former Haverfordwest manager who went on to bigger and better things, all respect to the Cymru League. And yet he kind of threw it at it. I've always kind of felt like Zian Fleming, I'm not quite sure if he's a centre forward to lead the line necessarily. I always feel like he could play off a bit more, but then such is the situation at Burnley and the options they've had, he's often led the line and did okay last season, got quite a few goals relatively in the Premier League, but he had so many chances. There was a point, and I was reporting for 5 Live, and I mentioned on air, he was averaging a chance every 5 minutes in the second half, literally every 5 minutes. It ended up with you'll like this reference, Max. He did a Darren Anderton Euro 96. He headed it onto the post, and it went right back into the goalkeeper's hands, Andres Kupka's hands. Like, it's so rare to see that, and it's so like increasingly demoralising for you to hit the post, and the keeper just stood there, just catches it. Like,
and then the keeper like plays on. You sort of think the keeper should do a bit more, react a bit more than just like, well, I've got the ball, I'll just carry on. Obviously, you just carry on playing, but there's a bit of you that thinks, acknowledge that this almost went in.
Like collapse to the floor.
Yeah, exactly. One
off the line as well, and then two goals late on, maybe a deflection in one. It's like West Ham played quite a lot of youngsters, and one of them gave away a penalty that Fleming then converted, needlessly flying in. I think it was Scarles, and then Fleming in the last minute with the equaliser. It was what they deserved. They were entertaining, and just some of the context around Burnley this season. They were bought in a leveraged buyout in the way that the Glazers bought Manchester United. So the most recent accounts, which are not like the most up-to-date ones, obviously, but they are over £140 million in debt. The shirt sponsor, they had to pull out a deal of that due to, I don't know, whoever they were. Burnley have previously
Definitive
had
One.
Yes.
And refunds or exchanges have been offered to fans who bought shirts with Definitive One on the front.
I did see quite a few fans just walking around with this shirt. Like, I'm like, you can just exchange it for like the normal one, the new one, whatever. So there's all that going on. And I met a dad and his daughter. It was her first ever season with a season ticket, and he was like really kind of down. Like, I don't know what to expect here. We desperately need to get out of this division, and if they don't, then things will end up being really, really bad for Burnley.
And meanwhile, West Ham actually much more favoured by all the experts and weren't great in this game.
I would say they were pretty poor considering what they've got available to them. Jared Bowen pretty quiet. Pablo Felipe not 100% convinced as a footballer still. An anonymous 45 minutes, but they were just so conservative. In the first 5 minutes, they were getting bashed around by Burnley and pretty lucky not to concede. And then, fortunately, got the goal. Nice delivery header because Aaron Ramsey completely lost Kilman. And I thought you got your foundation. You got a decent starting 11. You can go and push back at them, but nothing really. The 2 goals for West Ham yesterday were their only 2 shots on target, which sort of shows the level of conservatism within the Nuno setup. And the bench, they had 5 academy graduates on, who clearly didn't want to play, didn't bring any of them on. So the strength in depth is questionable. I know they brought Engels on Saturday. Definitely need a striker. Tati Castellanos got absolutely nothing, got really frustrated in the end and just absolutely whacked into Walker quite dangerously whilst he was jumping. Nuno came into the press conference afterwards and was barely audible, which I just assumed was a sign of how upset he was with the whole thing. But they need bodies if they're going to compete over a 46-game season. And I think Burnley had a lot more questions over them before the start yesterday, and they answered quite a few. Again, Fleming, a lot of missed chances. I feel a little bit like last season of, you had the chances and you messed it up. But at least they've given their fans a little bit of hope for the season, a little bit of excitement, which they definitely didn't have under Parker. Whereas West Ham must be looking at it and going, we need to spend, and there's got a lot of players. Obviously, they've sold quite a few players like Somerville, Fernandez. They've got a few players out of the squad who they're looking to sell or on decent money. But I think strikers got to be the first ambition for Nuno. But I'd also argue has to be a bit more ambitious with what he's got on the pitch. You've got people like that are Premier League players, and Solomon, who is, Castellanos is a £20 million player, got to just actually say, we are West Ham, we're going to go win the league because we're better than everyone, rather than sort of quite negative football.
Yeah, what's the Star Wars analogy when a dying Jedi goes inaudible in the Championship? I'm not sure. Yeah, Middlesbrough fancied by a lot. Ben beat Lincoln 2-1, made hard work of it, but talk about players missing chances. Will Lancashire started really well for them.
Yeah, comes up obviously 2 goals on debut. let's face it, Borough have spent decent money this summer, as it feels like they have done for a long time now, to get out of the Championship. Steve Gibson, the owner. Yeah, I mean, the winner late on in stoppage time, he took really well at the front post. Riley McGree did well, got to the byline. And Lancashire is kind of somebody who comes with a big reputation, isn't he? He 11 goals on loan at a relegated Oxford team last season. Obviously been at Spurs for a little while, and it was quite highly regarded, I think it's fair to say there. But for Borough to take him permanently was quite a big move in itself, in the sense that, could have maybe loaned him, or could they have retained him somehow? Maybe suggests that maybe Spurs don't see him as sort of having that future right at the very top, perhaps. But I think it's interesting because Borough have done the same with Radek Vitek from Manchester United, who was brilliant at Bristol City on loan last season. Huge goalkeeper, still young. I think he's 21, 22. And again, they've gone and got him permanently. So to get your goalkeeper and essentially your number 9 or your striker in Lancashire permanently, okay, they've spent good money for them, but they feel like two really impressive pieces of business, and a great start for Lancashire yesterday.
Just a note on Lancashire, by the way, Spurs have a 20% buyback and or like sell on, and have first refusal on anyone else buying them. And I think it's 10 million that could rise to 20. So I think that there is an eye on him, and he's got I think like 23 goals or something in the youth teams as well, like under 21s or whatever. So I think they like him. But I think he as well really wanted first team football. He got that at Oxford, and then he's already started so well for Borough.
Sort of like a loan, a buyback. Anyway, probably sensible thing to do. Southampton tipped by a lot, still on -4 points. Will, they lost at Watford. I don't know. Did anybody see the Harwood Bellis miss late on? That one, he must be sad about that. And the Watford centre-back just like giving a bit of a nudge, grinning at him. And you're just like, oh, I hate you so, just, oh, God, I hate you, looking at you. But were you surprised by that?
Well, yeah, I mean, the whole Bellis, the first touch was brilliant as well, to actually get to give himself the sight of goal. But yeah, made a mess of it thereafter. It's a strange one for Saints, because I thought they would win that game at Watford. And as I think I alluded to last time we spoke, Max, I just think Southampton, probably more than anybody in that division, just need to get off the mark, kind of settle down. I think, had they have got to -1, suddenly it feels a lot better about the place. I think the Tonda Eckert thing is kind of hovering over them. I think it could still be a number of weeks before we get any clarity on what happens with that. But yeah, I mean, a couple of pluses in terms of Kyle Larin scoring again. He's been a great signing, had a decent World Cup for Canada. Daniel Peretz in goal, coming back permanently as well, was big. But yeah, poor result, although, as you say, Harwood Bellis, probably should have equalised. Southampton got Stoke at home next, which I think, pressure will be on there to get.
Their season's over already, isn't it? Stoke's done, lost against Swansea, didn't they? Harry the Hornet did do some, binoculars, hilarious binocular stuff, but then did pull out some excellent dancing afterwards. I was really impressed by that. Norwich were tipped. They lost 2-0 to West Bromwell. Bit unlucky, weren't they? With not a Maradona handball, but a definite handball for West Brom's opener.
Yeah, I mean, if you're unhappy about VAR occasionally, you must sort of look at moments like that and think, I think we could drop it down. Yeah, he didn't deliberately.
Why don't in the championship they just have VAR for clear and obvious things? And that would be fine.
Exactly. It's a simple solution. I like Max. Yeah, I mean, to try and describe it, it's just his arm's in front of him, and the ball wouldn't have gone in if it wasn't for that.
If it didn't hit his arm or go in.
Well, exactly. This is what it wasn't. He wasn't there punching it past the goalkeeper, but yeah, it was a very irritating start to the season. You're sort of thinking August, if those things are going against you, like maybe I'll come back in March and see how things are going. Because if it's like this every week, my blood pressure's not going to cope.
It's so interesting about the opening day of the Football League. It's just, you have all this hope and expectation. If you lose, you just think, let's just write this one off. What else caught your eye, Sanny, from the Championship?
Well, I suppose after Portsmouth scored a fantastic goal from Devlin from distance, to then see that one of their fans had had torn up the season ticket card,
Right.
season card. But it's a little bit performative. Yeah, I mean, it is performative. I was hoping it was AI, but it is that. And just on that, Max, like I watched nearly every World Cup game, but then had the time delay and stuff as well. And I've come into this season just being like, it's just a lot of football, isn't it? It's a lot of football. And look, you know this. You
we
do this
already
every
have
week.
we already have a man who plays that role very well.
Yeah, I
Sanny.
know.
I'm not sure
I
we
know.
need another one.
And I found myself. I said the first person I saw was Will when I walked into Burnley, and I said to him, "Look, I've got this new radio show. I'm doing that 5 days a week. So the wolf isn't at the door to keep doing match reporting, missing seeing my family." And I just thought it doesn't go well today. I don't know. I'll think about it. You know, it's a lot. It's a lot to do. And then Zian Fleming pops up with those 2 goals, and he saved me from a career change. So that was another one.
Interesting.
The first person
yes,
the first person I saw yesterday at Turf was Rich Jolly, who did explain he did over 130 games last season.
Yeah, I only
Wow.
did 70.
Which was about 30 short of his record. So if you want to get someone on who may have seen too much
Holy
football,
moly.
That's
maybe
absurd.
That's extraordinary.
the big fan is.
Yeah. Just by the way, on the Southampton thing, like their fans, I think we're discovering are extremely thin-skinned. Like you've just
Football
got to
fans
accept
thin-skinned. You surprise me.
Just accept
Sanny.
it. Just accept. You know, you're going to get the mascots doing this. You're going to get everyone. There'll be a guy outside every ground selling half and half scarves and binoculars, and that's just like pin badges, half and halves, binoculars, and that'll be every game this season. 23 games. It's got to deal with it.
Ben, anything from you? You were Ashton Gate.
Yeah, I was at Bristol City, nil, Millwall 2. Millwall, very impressive. Bristol City went down to 10 men. Adam Randall got sent off.
Such
2
a
yellows.
silly second yellow, right? What are you
Very
doing?
silly second yellow. Yeah, sort of tugged at Josh Coburn on halfway or approaching halfway. And the reality is Millwall should have been 3-0 up, 53 minutes. Tariq Arconte hit the post from a couple of yards out, one of their new signings. Millwall, I tell you, were really impressive. They have that lovely blend that I think a lot of teams would kill for, where they're very strong, very imposing, very physical, but they can really play as well. And Femi Aziz, who's probably one of their better players, actually was forced off in the first half, so they sort of did this without him. Yes, Bristol City were down to 10, and you know people will argue that made life easy for Millwall, but I thought Millwall managed the game almost from the beginning. Obviously third last year under Alex Neil, they look pretty good again, and I did enjoy the Millwall fans serenading Josh Coburn, who is, I mean, I'm pretty gangly, but he's sort of gangly times 2, and he scored twice, and the fans were singing "Big effing lamppost" at him as he went over at the end. And for me, it's up there for sort of chant of the season already, I think.
So who is that? Remind me who that is, please.
Josh Coburn, the striker.
Coburn.
He must be sort of 6'5", 6". He is he's very tall, he's pretty slender, but you know what? He was really effective. I think that's the thing. I think maybe some other championship teams sort of look at him and think, oh, we don't need that as our solution. Obviously Middlesbrough let him go to Millwall, but no, Millwall really impressive, I thought, from sort of back to front. It was a really encouraging performance.
It sounds, Ben, like you're trying to sell yourself to other championship clubs as a lamppost. Maybe you could do a similar job to Josh Coburn. I'm a similar height. I could be effective.
So Wikipedia only has him at 6'3", tiny little Josh Coburn, but big fucking lamppost. Great shout. Wolves.
Can we mention? I was going to say, sorry. Can we mention Wolves? Sorry,
you can mention Wolves, of course.
Well, yeah. I mean, a 93rd minute penalty for Raul Jimenez with a handball that may have not been inside the box.
Oh, again, and I don't love handballs, but what's he do? I mean, that hand is away from his body.
Yeah.
What's he doing?
And you still had to pick up the Man of the Match award afterwards, which must have been a killer.
Yeah, and you know, and considering Tony Mowbray's he's not got a lot to work with, and they did really well. 2-1 up, last minute, pull back here. And by the way, did you see Tony Mowbray is basically trying to get out of being given any more revels? Did you see this? Like they did one of those. Like
people ranking things.
Yeah, blind ranking.
Blind
chocolates.
rankings are so stupid.
Yeah,
blind rankings are so. Why is anybody like?
I know
it's obviously stupid because unless you know what all the things are, you can't rank them. Like, why is anyone entertained by this?
He had that pointless blind ranking, but then used it as an opportunity to tell everyone how he has 400 family packs of Revels in his garage.
Okay.
And he's got into Boosts and picnic bars now. So Don't give him any revels.
Okay.
That's
Well, I won't. I won't.
From
I won't. But now we all know, so that's good. It's good to spread the word. It's almost as bad as when people start putting things in tiers on Instagram. Posh hotels you can't afford. The Langley, I'll put that in tier B. Some rich twat is saying, do this, honestly. Anyway, do I sound like an old man yelling at a cloud? Yes, I do. You wanted to say something, Ben, before I take
Sorry,
no,
I was gonna say just on Wolves, I enjoyed obviously Jimenez and his family giving the South Bank 5,000 supporters scarves, which obviously it was quite nice that then it was fitting that he scored, had that moment there waving the scarf, singing his name. I mean, those fans have been singing his name, as he and his partner Daniela have said, like, even when he hasn't been in the club, they love him. And then I just enjoyed that Jimenez's family, across 5 different old gold Wolves shirts, had the chant on the back of those shirts or spread across. So one of them, I don't know which member of the family it was, but had "Give the ball, number 9," and then another one just had "and he," which I quite like that.
And Ida Gudjonsson's son scored for Blackburn. So how old are we all? We'll do League One and League Two in part 3. Welcome to part 3 of the Guardian Football Weekly. So League One, Will, you were at Meadow Lane to see Leicester under Russell Martin in the third tier, a 1-1 draw. Thoughts?
Yeah, my role this weekend has been to focus on teams that have been relegated but have got great optimism that they will go up. Unfortunately, fell very short again in performance. I mean, Russell Martin's come in. We all know Russell Martin plays one play out from the back.
Do you think the sport editor thinks we need somebody who understands
misery? Yeah.
No, misery, but also falling well below expectations. Well, who can we get who really lives that life?
No, I mean, I think the expectations within the department of my work are pretty rock bottom anyway.
The bar is low anyway.
Maybe they were looking to get Notts County to inspire me that through hard work and dedication, I could move up to the next tier. I don't know. But yeah, so obviously, again, a bit like West Ham, lost good players because they need to sell due to financial situation. A lot of uncertainty around the sale at the club as well. But Russell Martin found out at Southampton that maybe he should find a degree of pragmatism, because trying to watch Alex McCarthy, Kalu Bakoli and Harry Suter play out from the back was painful. There was a sort of collage of clips of all the times it failed on Sunday. Within 6 minutes, Ollie Cooper had tackled Alex McCarthy, who had pondered on the ball, and it had hit the bar from 6 yards, the tackle. It was, if that wasn't a warning sign that maybe we need something different, then, it's a bit worrying that you don't spot these things. Ollie Skip, who was once a £20 million midfielder from Tottenham, played 25 games, I think, for the under-21s, looked completely off the pace. Notts County have spent the summer, the fans sort of pretty irritated by the business. Jatta, their main striker's gone, signed a lot of quite obscure footballers. Emil Aqua, who the non-goal scoring striker, who played 20 games on loan at Harrogate last season as they went down from League Two without scoring.
Yeah, I love a non-scoring striker. I love striker Wikipedia goals too. Absolutely in for that.
Jake Evans, he went down with Harrogate. Yeah, we'll have him as well. Don't worry about that. And so everyone's, me included, would think they're getting relegated. But they were disciplined, really fit, really energetic in the faces of Leicester. And Leicester couldn't really cope with it. I don't know if it was an arrogance that they think they're going to sort of turn over teams like Notts County, but they had very little from Skip in midfield. Then the two most dangerous players were Wes Burns and Will Alves on the wings. But then in the centre forwards are Liam Cullen and Bobby Decordova-Reid, who didn't have the physical presence, I think, to really threaten Notts County at the back. And so they're just another team that been mismanaged in terms of personnel on the pitch. And I do think that Russell Martin may need to consider adapting his style, but I might
stick at it.
I think I might be an angry man shouting at clouds now. But it was really poor. I think, take the positives from Leicester. They played Jayden Joseph, who spent last season on loan at Tranmere, I believe, and he looked like he knew what he was doing in the lower leagues. And Will Alves, who spent time at Huddersfield, and Sammy Braybuck, who was at Newport and Chesterfield last season. And they adapted themselves well, whereas everyone else, I don't know, a mixture of Caleb Bacoli wondering what he's got into 2 years after signing for 15 million quid from Atalanta, that this is what he's involved in. But it was a raucous atmosphere, Meadow Lane, 17,000, so probably really good for Notts County, and Notts County should have won, and I think they know that, and Notts County will say they need a striker. I think Luke Smith looked decent up top, but again, another one that looks like he won't score. But Aqua came off the bench and was really dangerous in what he did, but he should have scored, but thankfully got an assist when his header from 3 yards hit the post and went straight to Conor Grant to knock in. But I'd be a bit worried, especially with everything going on around the club. I think £200 million sale is what's being said. This big brochure, 140 years of history at Leicester City. I'm not sure they're going to add to that with the draw at Meadow Lane.
Stick it. Yeah, we need a new chapter, lads, and fast. Reading 3, Luton 4 was probably the game of the day. Nice shot of Sheffield Wednesday fans in a flat above Brisbane Road when they scored their winner. Not the flat that I watched the U's win during the COVID season. A lovely listener who let me watch that from his flat. And Cambridge 3-0 up against Wigan. It was 3-2 in the end, but still great win for the lads. So what did you pick out from League One, Ben?
The Reading game jumped out for not just the 7 goals, obviously. Reading went 1-0 down early on, 6 minutes. Jake Richards scored for Luton, who I think is maybe one of the most exciting players in that league. He just turned 19. They got him from Exeter. But then Jack Marriott scores, gets a hat-trick. Reading are 3-1 up, all looking pretty rosy. And then, as Liam Richardson, the manager, said afterwards, it was a little bit of deja vu from a couple of games last season. They've got this worrying trend of either being in front or, level and then just conceding late on. And this is exactly what happened this time. Gideon Kadoa scored a 96-minute winner after he actually hit the bar. So there was a sort of touch of comedy to it as well. It's quite negative around Reading and Liam Richardson in particular, the manager, who tried to sort of strengthen his hand over the summer by bringing in John Coleman, former Accrington manager, who he played under at Accrington, as his assistant, which doesn't feel quite right. It feels like John Coleman has to be a number one sort of barking instruction somewhere. But that jumped out, and obviously, but a great start in the end for Jack Wilshere.
League Two. Will, your hand is raised. Better be good.
My local team, Stockport, won 3-1 at Plymouth, and I was just thinking they've had a bit of uncertainty. Some change of manager after Dave Challen's been there for so many years, change of sort of direction with the recruitment. And I was just thinking, in terms of, as discussed, sort of losing badly at the start of the season, I think if you'd gone all the way to Plymouth and watched your team get shooed in August, you might think, football really isn't the sport for me. But no, they're really good. Ollie Watmuth, who was at Jimmy McNulty at Rochdale, good starting goal as well. So yeah, a good start for Stockport.
Well done, Stockport. I should say in terms of season over, the boos from the Wigan fans at half-time at the Abbey were brilliant, and they were absolutely awful in that first 45 minutes. Sanny?
Just very quickly to say that mark your card on Huddersfield, who won 3-0 with Darren Silly Sanchez Fernandez, signed from Excelsior, with 2 wonderful goals. 3-0 win against AFC Wimbledon. Looks like, after big spending and sacking the manager when they're in the playoffs this season, could be their season.
In League Two, Ben, sorry to rush you along. You sound really like it's good. Is it good?
I was just going to say, I wanted to know what is the acceptable age for wearing a cap backwards, as Ian Evatt did in his pre-match interview for Blackpool, because he turns 45 in November, and I thought it was a yellow card, sort of red card.
Do you know what? I think if you're kind of a wellness influencer in Los Angeles, 45 is okay. If you're a League One manager, no, I would say. But at the same time, I don't think flat cap should be anyone under 60, really. So, there's a sort of interesting, at some point, you can't just pivot straight from backwards baseball cap to frontways flat cap, but you need to find the sort of, the bridging hat you need to find. League Two, Ben, Salford, fancied by lots, never ever managed to get automatic promotion, got shooed by Barnet. And I wonder if it's similar in a kind of Russell Martin style. They brought in, an Ange Postecoglou disciple, and now they're going to try and play out in League Two. I'm here for it.
Yeah, it was quite sobering. I mean, at 3-1, but it was essentially 3-0 until they scored really late on. The second goal in particular, Will Norris, the goalkeeper, sort of chests it outside of his box, tries to dink a pass into his centre half. Charlie Lakin intercepts it. It's in the back of the net. The third one is kind of just really soft, kind of centre, dreadful defending. Namdi off a ball, just overpowered Salford in midfield. So, yeah, as you say, Peter Klimowski spent 15 years with Big Ange as his sort of assistant, coaching with him. His last gig with the Malaysian national team, before that in Japan at various clubs, it just feels very left field and very random. I'd be interested what the real kind of belief was, or why Salford have landed on him to essentially get them out of the league, which, lots of managers with decent pedigree or decent CVs in the Football League have tried and failed. So, yeah, I don't like that really. And I think even though they've spent decent money, it feels, I don't know if I can see it happening.
Well, it's only one game. They could all prove us wrong, couldn't they? York marked their Football League return after 10 years away with a 3-2 win over Bristol Rovers, so well done to them. 2 for Harry Boys in Fitbar. Derek McKinnon got his first win as Rangers manager, beating St Mirren in the Scottish League Cup. They'll now face Celtic in the quarterfinals, and it is ridiculous that quarterfinals are happening. What's this? Anyway, Celtic beat Dundee 4-0. And 39-year-old Belgian Sebastian Portignoli has been announced as the new Scotland boss. If you think I pronounced that badly, the ones that are on the cutting room floor, fortunately, they're terrible. My apologies. Succeeding Steve Clarke will go to Ewan Murray's jazz bar. Probably there's an international break soon, won't we? So we'll do it then. And just a shout for Brian Brobbey's goal for Sunderland in pre-season against Stade Rennais. I mean, I don't know who wants to take this. It's so brilliant, Ben. You're smiling. It's so wonderful, isn't it? Just battering ram, ball bouncing everywhere. Brobbey, who I think is such a talent, but this was really a sort of speedball 2 goal. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, extremely enjoyable viewing, and I hadn't seen it until you pointed it out, Max, so it made it all the better. Yeah, it just felt like he was on kind of some weird like dodgem, just bouncing into opponents and then eventually obviously gets his reward. But yeah, what a name, what a striker, what a goal. Yeah, very, very enjoyable. What a way to start the season.
I saw it more as sort of the adult after a couple of pints gets on the bouncy castle with the kids.
Yeah, it has that vibe.
Jumping everyone out the dudes, knocking kids all over the place.
Yeah. If anything, it's the most Mr. Blobby we've seen from Brian Brobbey, isn't it?
No,
crashing
that's
everywhere.
A very good point. Very good point. Yeah. Furious Will Carling and Garth Crooks bounce somewhere as Blobby just goes wild and scores. But anyway, thanks everybody. That'll do for today. Previews on Wednesday and Thursday. If you have any thoughts on your Premier League team, Football Weekly at theguardian.com, or via Instagram is where we're really going big. Apparently TikTok, but I'm yet to log in, and on Blue Sky too. But thank you, everybody. Thank you, Will.
Thank you very much, Max.
Thank you, Sanny.
Cheers. It's been eating at me. Tijani Reinders is 28, not 24, just to correct myself from earlier.
Noted. You're 24 until you're 24 until you're 25, of course. Thank you, Ben.
Cheers, Max.
Football Weekly is produced by Matt Bentley-Viney and Jesse Howard. The executive producer is Joel Grove, and we'll be back on Wednesday and Thursday.